Hi, Kara.
Hi, how are you?
Good. Just saying hello, and I'm here. So,
Perfect. We're just waiting on a couple more judges and then the participants, and we can get going at 11.
Okay. Will there be feedback on because it's the
Yeah,
final?
there's going to be a feedback period at the end.
Okay. So it's like the prelim rounds. Nothing changes.
Yes.
Okay. So I'll be on standby.
Perfect. I think we have all the judges at this point. We're just waiting on the competitors. But in the meantime, one of the teams competing is team number 140. And the other team that's competing is team number 595.
Thanks, Kara. That's useful. Could you tell us which team is which in terms of Atlantis or Hercules?
Yes, I can. Let me just double check. The international team is team number 595. And the US team is team number 140.
Kara, I think what we were wondering was which team is representing which of the litigants or the negotiators. Atlantis is 140 or 595, and Hercules is which?
Oh, I'm sorry about that. I don't have that in front of me. When the participants get in the room, I'll have them change their name so that it represents the party that they're negotiating on behalf of.
Thank you. So I'll just say hello to all the other judges who seem by name to be representative internationally. And I'm sitting here based in Syracuse, New York, and very jealous of wherever you all are.
Yeah, I'll join in. Greetings. I'm in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. So Syracuse might be a little warmer.
And I'm in Denmark, and it's close to 4 p.m.
Hi all, and I'm in Greece at the moment, almost 5 p.m. Have a good session all.
George, I know only one phrase in Greek really well, and I've been told never to say it in public unless I really mean it. So what should I be saying to you about good afternoon?
That would be Kalispera for good afternoon. And I'm assuming that you're referring to some expression that shouldn't be said out loud, but I understand that it's very popular abroad and in Greece. But Kalispera is the one that we use at 5 p.m. local time.
Thank you. Yeah, my grandparents were immigrants from Poland, and I learned all the Polish swear words before I learned English swear words, and it seems to have been the thing that I pick up for most of my foreign language first.
It is what people pick up first, apparently. So I can't blame you for it. And Kara, we're waiting for the participants to join. Is that correct?
Like we're slowly starting to join right now. So once we have all of them, we'll get started right at 11.
Kara, where are you?
I am currently in Syracuse as well.
Ha. We're fooling everyone by having sunshine in our video images.
Exactly.
They'll all think we're using those fake backgrounds.
Looks like we're just waiting on one more participant. It looks like we do have all the participants. Participants, if you could change your name so that it's your name, the party that you represent, and then also your team number would be helpful. This is going to be on live stream, so we're going to begin right at 11. Just a couple more minutes, guys. All right, thank you for being here, competitors. It looks like we are all set to begin. Just like the other rounds, you guys will have 60 minutes, and I will show you the stop time card. Judges, if you could leave the cameras off until the end, and then we'll bring you back for the feedback period. But whenever you guys are ready to begin, you can go ahead.
Well, good evening and good morning to us here. My name is Victoria Belk, and this is my partner, Luca D'Annunzio. If you'd please excuse me for my voice, I am recovering from a cold right now. If you need anything repeated or clarified, feel free to ask me. As you may know, we are here on behalf of President Triton of Atlantis and the Underwater Shore Research Team. We are glad to be working with our ally Hercules in discussing the ecosystem and ways to move forward with your ship that is located off of our coast. We have a lot of great ideas and are looking forward to bringing them in our discussions today. We are happy to turn it to you and would love to hear your perspective and thoughts coming into this meeting.
Okay. Thank you for that, Victoria. Please take care of your voice. And yes, so namaste. It's a Herculean way of saying good evening from here. So I'm Aparna and my co-counsel Shivangi is here today.
Namaste, guys.
Okay, so Shivangi and I were just having a conversation about how amazing the weather is in Hercules, and it's so fresh, just like our minds. So even though we are 1,000 miles apart, it's quite a pleasure to be present in the virtual Transatlantic Negotiation Center, and we hope you'll be doing safe and taking care of yourself in the unprecedented time we are in right now. So, we're also really glad that we're having a chance to sit down and talk and work out on the aspect of protecting our environment together. It's a really great initiative from your side. So I'll be very short and quick. Is that, as you're aware, Hercules is a naval ship which lost its control and presently lying in the deep waters of Atlantis. And in the year 1980, luckily, with the help of your government, we were able to recover the deceased bodies and the classified materials. So we're very grateful for that. Thank you so much. So today we are here to discuss upon what can be done about that ship. And before we jump into the negotiation, we wanted to lay it down clearly for you guys that Shivangi and I will be having full authority to negotiate settlement on behalf of our government, Hercules. And even though we have a time constraint of 16 minutes, we want you to understand there's absolutely no pressure to take any decision at this table at the moment. We can always take it slow and steady. So thank you for listening so politely while I spoke. Shivangi, would you like to take over and state where we stand today?
Absolutely. Thank you for that. Good evening again. I'm Shivangi, and hello, Victoria and Luca. If I'm not pronouncing it wrong, please correct me. And you can very well address me by my first name. I think Mother Nature has tied us quite tightly this time. Your water, our ship, one collaboration to look forward to. Seems like made for each other countries. And maybe before starting, if everything goes smooth sailing, maybe we could grab dinner together the next time we meet for the fine print agreement. Now, following upon Aparna's expression, I must start today's negotiation paying my regards to the brave people of Atlantis and Herculean who fought the 1930 war. 90 years ago, the war was dreadful and tragic. People died, ships sank, but our relationship has only risen after the war, and we are here yet again. I want to set the tone today by stating that as Herculeans, we truly believe in working together. We believe individually we might be just a drop of water, but together we are an endless ocean. And I hope together our waves of this ocean are strong enough to cut through the upcoming crisis we are here at the table. We understand that the wrecks in the water are polluting the environment, and as nature enthusiast myself and our president as well, being an active scuba diver himself, we're truly glad that your president has addressed concerns of ocean degradation. Now, with regard to the Herculean Navy ship, we both know that it's a symbol of unison of our country's war against enemies, and it definitely holds an emotional space in our hearts even today. So perhaps we could think of reforming and remarketing the same ship to symbolize it overcoming yet another crisis in unison. So since you have laid down your interest for collaboration so clearly, at this point of time, might I ask you what your expectations are with regard to the course of action to be taken with the ship? Perhaps after that, we could set an agenda to steer our way through the process.
Yeah.
Yes, go ahead. Thank you.
Thanks, Shivani. Thanks for that introduction, Shivani and Aparna. We just want to clarify we do have authority today to enter into an agreement. If there's anything a little bit outside of the scope of particulars, we are willing to enter it into a framework of an agreement as well. And, we'd like to echo everything that you said. The war in 1930 really brought our countries together, and we've had a long-standing and very beneficial relationship. And, we're really happy to be here at the table to discuss this ship off our coast. And, as you may know, President Triton has campaigned on this idea of helping the ecosystems and the oceans in our world. as we have become more aware recently of the damage of pollution and how coral reefs have really been, taking a hit all across the world. And we have a number of ships off our coast, but this is the only ship that is not belonging to us. And it's your ship that was sunk. And so we're happy to be here today to discuss what to do with this ship. Just to move into that agenda, there are two main choices that have been laid out for us by the Underwater Shore Research Team, which we do want to discuss. And those two choices are first, conversion into an artificial reef, and second would be removal. Before we just get into the details of that, we do want to clear the air and, hear your thoughts on a few things. So I do have a question about whether there are any particular items of interest or of value that you have on the ship.
Well, thank you for that. Perhaps we wanted your interest to be laid down first, but again, we'll be more than happy to address ourselves first. With respect to value, rather than monetary, we would tell we have an emotional value attached to it. Since the ship was sunk on that very place, it does hold an emotional value. And at this juncture, we do feel that for us, we are definitely amenable to hearing your interest and perhaps reaching consensus. But with respect to answering your question directly, we do hold an emotional value, and we hope it stays there.
Okay, and yes, so just to be clear, is there anything of interest on the ship that we have to worry about just as a preliminary issue before we get into, our interest in the removal or possible conversion?
Well, if you could guarantee us that you would be able to be in consensus with the agreement that the ship would be there, then probably we could go forward with speaking more about the valuable interest. Because it would be unfair for us to point a finger right now as to what valuable things of interest we have. But it definitely holds an emotional value, if I may reiterate the same thing again. So perhaps if I may return the question again, what are your expectations with regard to the course of action for this ship?
Thank you for that. And, our expectations are mostly eco-based. We believe that the ship would serve best as an artificial reef. Reefs around the world have been they've been really destroyed. And so we feel that putting another reef back into the ocean, starting with this artificial reef, would be really beneficial for both of our countries and the water overall. We see, ourselves partnering together for a initiative, possibly something like a blue water initiative, where our countries can really work together and have a social media campaign and press releases to really accomplish bringing back the clear water into our country.
Well, thank you for that. I think there's some internet connection with respect to my teammate. So, I did hear you. And since we both are on the same lines with respect to converting it into an artificial reef, I think we're good to go. Perhaps if you don't mind, I could structure it properly in our chat box so we just know where we are ticking off, if you don't have a problem with that.
Yeah, you can put some, go ahead.
Yeah, I think there's a problem with my teammate. Yeah, 1 second. Okay, perhaps I'd continue to then.
I did pause the time if you guys want to take a break and give her a couple minutes to get back into the room.
No problem.
Yeah,
And we'll come back on the chat like you were saying.
Thank you. Once again, I'll just get back to her.
Looks like she's back and you guys are all set to resume. I'll restart the time.
Thank you so much. Apologies, we had some internet issues.
That's no problem. We're happy you're back. Shivangi, you were saying about the chat?
Yeah, definitely. So just to brief up Aparna as well, we were just speaking about the agenda so we could structure it more properly and likewise. But since you have the light interest of making it into a reef, so we would be more than accommodative to listen more about that. So do you mind if I just put it in the chat box so we could take properly with that? I've already typed actually.
You can put it in the chat box. Me and Victoria do want to just mention and compare and contrast the removal in Atlantis' opinion versus the conversion. Right now, the removal looks to be a lot more expensive than the conversion, and it just carries a lot more risks with it because the ship is going to have to be hauled up out of the water and brought onto shore, and there is more risk of contamination of the water with any materials that are on there. However, with the conversion, there's just going to be a direct insertion of divers into the ship to remove that dangerous material. It would be less risky, less expensive, and it would create that artificial reef, as Victoria was saying, that would really help the environment. So are we in agreement that the artificial reef is a good option for both of us?
Well, thank you for laying out so clearly in terms of environmental damage that removal would do. Definitely, I think we are amenable to that, and converting it into a reef would seem to be much more sustainable process. Now, with respect to the transferable reefs that you've convertible reefs that you've spoken of, since you've spoken about cost, I'd like to return a question and ask you as to what is the process of you arriving at the cost? Like, do you have any numbers that you're rooting for with respect to the cost of conversion right now?
Yes, so we do have some costs that have been given to us from the USRT that we're coming into this agreement with that would be happy to share to really explain why we think the coral reef conversion into that artificial reef is a good option. So removing the ship right now would cost about $2.5 million. And that would be to raise it off the seafloor, break it down, and salvage it. And converting the ship would be a lot less expensive at the $1.75 million amount. And we would just be hiring commercial divers to go and clean up the site. With that being said, and with the conversion being on the table, I would like to go back more, a little back to that first question that I had about any value, anything of value on the ship that Hercules would be interested in, so we would know if we had to work around anything.
Okay, so thank you for putting that question forward, Luca. So I think considering the fact that the conversion is on the table again, we have just one interest. That it is in fact a very commercial interest, and apart from that, we also have one more concern is that this Hercules, the ship in itself, was used for the war, and I think it would be perhaps really a great idea if we could honor Hercules by placing some plague or a fixture about the sailors who have lost their lives to the war, and I think it'll look like some sort of a recognition that we're giving them, and I'm sure Atlantis, which was our ally in the 1930 war, would respect the laws and respect the laws we have suffered, and honor them duly as well. So that is one concern we have, if that answer your question. Apart from that,
just to be clear, Aparna, so you have that emotional connection that you mentioned before, and now you're also bringing in this idea of something there to remember the soldiers. Is that correct?
Yes, you're correct.
Okay, so we think this is a great idea, and Victoria actually has some creative solutions that Atlantis is willing to bring to the table, and we also think this is a good time to start talking about the cost and what Atlantis is willing to do with the cost.
Okay, so before we go ahead with this, I just have one more question to, be considerate about the conversion idea that we were talking about. Is that, as your president was initially not very okay with, conversion or letting this place for a commercializing it because of the safety concerns that he felt should be addressed. We want to know if we are going ahead with the conversion process, hypothetically, or in fact, we are going ahead with the conversion process. So we want to know what kind of safety measures or anything of that sort will Atlantis be taking to, address that issue of safety, which your president was in fact very concerned about before.
Yeah, so we are going to address those safety concerns. We will do all of the we will follow all of the recommendations that the scuba team actually recommends to us, the UCERT recommends to us. So those are going to be followed, and we won't have any concerns once we remediate these issues. Our main concerns has been the chemicals and the problems listed in Exhibit 1 that we both have. That has really been our main concern, but we, under this budget that Luca has mentioned, that 1.75 million, it is, those will all be remediated.
Thank you for answering that. It was very reassuring. Shivangi, you want to go ahead, please?
Yes, thank you for that, Aparna. Victoria, I'm really sorry for hearing your voice. I just feel bad for letting you speak so much. But again, since you've spoken about costs, and I think it's better to move forward with the cost of the project. Since you've stated 1.75 million, since like Aparna also following upon Aparna's expression on the fact that since it was your president's haste decision to get environment in check again, it is a huge sum for us to actually balance and help you with that. So Aparna, we do have some solutions. If you are open to hearing them, Aparna, would you love sharing it to them? Probably could, again, there might be a leeway to actually work through that again.
Yes, thank you, Shivangi. If I can go ahead, the idea that we have come up with is that we do have some concerns regarding the funding. That is, as you stated, will be for 1.5 million for the conversion. So what I feel is that, your president was in fact a little progressive or progressed a little more in a quicker way with regard to this matter. So we're concerned that our budget for the coming years will be a little tight on addressing this issue. So in fact, what we have come up with a proposal is that biodiversity funding for this particular project, which will be comprising of, conducting events and inviting people who propagate environmental well-being, in fact, which is also our sole objective. So this would help us solve our immediate financial needs, and the project can take off, in a very peaceful manner without being giving considerations about our financial, tightness of that aspect. So,
Aparna,
yes.
Could I just ask you to repeat the heart of that? Is it that you're asking people to come and help with the finances? I didn't clearly understand that. I'm sorry.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for raising the concern. I'll explain it more. I'll simplify it for you. So what we feel is that the biodiversity funding will happen in a way that we will be conducting events. So be it any event, like say, for example, a scuba diving event, or since Atlantis is known for having a lot of artificial reefs, I think we can make use of that chance and, conduct an event like a scuba diving event or any competitions of that sort, and then, engage people who are very environmentally, who propagate environmental wellness. So if we could, collect funds from them, we can kickstart the project with the initial amount we have, and then think about our financial needs later, because by that time, I think we can also adjust our economy and be able to offer you a little more than amount than we can now. So that's what we intended.
Thank you for that, Aparna. And, we are interested in doing some type of event with you guys and some type of diving. However, I'm not sure if we're able to discuss going into a profit split on that yet. However, I did want to bring up something that we had thought was a great idea as well, which you guys had mentioned that you have emotional value to this ship. Something we were thinking is we could do a commemorative event. So at the 100-year mark, which is only 9 years away, we could have this, if there are any survivors, families of the survivors, come to the ship, site, the dock, the closest we can get, and really commemorate what took place on that ship. Another solution that we were thinking would be great would even name the diving site after the ship. Just some strong ties with Hercules to really support that emotional value. And with those two ideas, we did want to go ahead and jump into the money and the collaboration on this event. So we did say it would cost 1.75 million to create the artificial reef. And Atlantis is prepared to offer 15%, to pay 15% of those costs today.
Okay, thank you for explaining that to us, and it was in fact a very creative solution that you've come up with. So just to make it clear that the fundraising event that we talked about earlier, I think you got it wrong. That is, we won't be splitting the profits as such. This biodiversity funding will be a collaborative event between Atlantis and Hercules, and the fund that we generate will be used for the conversion of the coral reef. So it is just for the conversion of coral reefs and not for any profit splitting or anything. So after that,
excuse me, I'm sorry.
Okay, so we understand a little more now, Aparna. So that's just going to be for the general ecosystem, this event. Yeah, our concern was that we just don't have the authorities today to discuss, applying profits to the construction costs that we have talked about, the 1.75 million. That's the number that we're focused on, and anything that might come in, we could bring back to the president to talk about. We think your idea about education and bringing awareness is something that we're totally on board with, and something that we would be willing to agree to in today's agreement. As Victoria said, responding to your concerns about the cost and how this is a lot for Hercules, Atlantis is willing to pay 50% of the cost of the conversion, along with those creative solutions, the 100-year anniversary that we would host, and the naming of the reef after the ship.
Well, thank you for that. Just to clarify, I think, did you mention 50-50% or 15-15%?
Yeah, 15-15%. Shivangi, thank you.
Okay, 15-15%. Thank you for that. Definitely, I think your idea for commemorating the 100-year mark is really good. We do have something, we could actually collaborate on that, and we'll just speak about the collaboration right now. Adding on to that, I think we also have an initiative that we could do that could help us economically and collaboratively, which could also complement your 100-day mark. So Aparna, would you want to explain that?
Yes, thank you, Shivangi. Thank you for giving that to me. So the solution that we have, or a proposal that we want to put forward is that we have thought that we can start an art gallery, an underwater art gallery under the conversion that we're doing right now. So with this, I think which will talk about the sacrifices that the sailors have made in the 1930 war. So the sailors, when I mention sailors, it does not alone, include the Hercules, but it also includes about the Atlantis people who have lost their, sacrificed their life for this war. So I guess that will be a very joint collaborative effort. And for understanding this, it would look, for your better understanding, it will look more like, Vandenberg's underwater art gallery, if you're aware about. So I think that is what we are, aiming to create, or something of that sort is what we're aiming to create. And this step even, would be a remembrance for how strong our ties has been in the coming years. So that is something that we wanted to put forward. We would love to hear your thoughts on this.
Thank you for that, Aparna. I think, we're so happy that you've been coming to the table today. And, I think this really is a testament to the great relationship between our countries, how we're having these great ideas about how we can commemorate. I just do want to bring us back to the numbers. We are nearing the halfway point, and I think the numbers are something really important for us to reach an agreement today. Right now, what we've put on the table that Atlantis is willing to cover is 15% of the conversion costs. Are there any numbers from your side that you could put on the table for us?
Yes, definitely. Thank you for that. Now we do understand the fact that you want to get back to the numbers. So let's just do that as well. 15%, we do feel it's quite a less amount from your side because it's your idea to save the environment, which definitely rubs off to us as well. But considering that we are looking forward for a time-tested relationship in future, and I can see that you both are amenable to collaborations if there is a leeway over here. So what we were thinking right now is we could actually, we were actually offering about 20% of our financial aid to you. But since yours is 50%, we are now applicable to providing 25% of financial aid, and to cover up the rest of the financial aid, I think we do have an offer on the table right now. What we think is, since converting the cost firstly and primarily includes cleaning the Navy ships, I think it becomes, I think we would take the responsibility of cleaning the ship. So we'd have commercial scuba divers get into the ship, get inside there, clean it and come back free of cost. So you wouldn't be bearing that burden of cleaning. So I think that major cuts down your primary costs. So we would love to hear your thoughts. So if I have to summarize in a way, we'd be providing you commercial divers free of cost, who would be doing the primary task of cleaning everything and getting back into a proper shape. And with respect to the financial aid in terms of monetary terms, we'd be amicable to providing 25%. So we'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, Shivangi, I see that you've moved from that 20 to 25%, like you said. You know, this is news to us about you having the commercial divers. According to our information, we were going to hire a qualified team, like a third party that regularly does our ships. It's interesting to us that you've brought up these commercial divers. Is there any particular reason that you are offering these divers for us?
Okay, thank you for raising that concern. I think the only reason we brought it up is because, you know, like we stated before, we have some budget issues that we are facing right now. So if we could see about, compensating you on something else, I think the bringing in the commercial drivers at a free of cost was one idea from our side, which thought, it will give us even more, it's a sort of contribution that we could give us from our side apart from monetary compensation. So Shivangi, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, definitely, Aparna. Like Aparna said, and adding on to that, with respect to our particular interest, we do feel since it's our ship, we'd want to take that responsibility of cleaning that as well. If we had to get deep into that, we do feel that it was a warship, and there are certain things that it is very secretive to our national integrity and importance and security. So we'd want to take that responsibility of providing you commercial scuba divers, so they do the major part of cleaning, get it back into shape, and then probably you could go on with the next steps. So does that answer your question?
Shivangi, Shivangi, we do hear what you're saying, and we recognize that you're saying that there's something of value, and we think you offering your divers is something that we really appreciate, and we know they're qualified, and we'd be willing to agree to that. That's something, contingent on all these other things. That's something we'd be willing to look at, and Victoria does have some more ideas for us moving forward.
Yeah, I think that we could take another look at these percentages and be able to agree to your divers being used to convert this ship to an artificial reef. If you were willing to pay 35% of the total costs, then I think that we could get closer to a deal here today.
Well, thank you for that, Victoria. If you guarantee that you'd allow us, our commercial divers, to get in, I think we'd be ready to make that concession of 35. So first, can I get an answer to that? Are you open to allowing our commercial divers to clean our ship?
Yes, we are. Yes, we are. We do recognize there is something of value there. However, with it not being our divers, of course, we want to move on that money, which is why Victoria is now asking you to move to the 35% of paying 35%. We also have some other ideas just to commemorate, what the warship did, and how it was of value to us in the War of 1930, which Victoria will explain.
Yeah, so we were thinking that we could, get the artifacts that are still left on the ship, or any of the major pieces that are not able to be used for the artificial reef, and put them in a museum of ours and possibly of yours. We could do a whole, where people could come, a special event for the museum, where it's just on display, the whole history and everything that happened with the ship. Maybe even tell the account. We could have drawings and everything like that at our museum. Is that something you guys would be interested in?
Well, thank you for that, Victoria. I think just to summarize on the cost, because I think we're going all over the place right now. With the cost, you are open to allowing solely our commercial divers to get it clean, and we'll be offering in return 35% of the cost. Am I right? And then probably we could go to that.
That is
Yes.
correct.
Okay, thank you. So with respect to the collaboration, definitely, I think you've made a really reassuring and a very creative solution. Adding on to that, I think rather than putting it in your museum and our museum, since it commemorates our unity between two nations, we do feel we could rather, like Aparna reinstated, the thing that we had planned was in your 100 commemoration that you had stated, we could probably have a gallery where scuba divers could go. We could have artifacts kept there. Because that's, again, if you see the current news, that's again a major economical source for both the countries. And that becomes emblematic to the very fact that the whole gallery is on the place where the unison had occurred. So rather than dividing them or getting into the profit and loss statements of whose artifacts goes where, we could have a common place, that is the ship, and commemorate, get your idea and idea fused and do this. So do you have any ideas on that? Or are you open to the solution?
We like that solution, being able to work together more. I think, there are some concerns for Atlantis, just with the conversion. People love to come to our beaches from all around the world. And right now, it does look like this project could be taking 2 to 3 years. And it is going to be an eyesore for that time, especially with the pandemic, hopefully ending very soon, and tourism really booming in the country. People are going to be coming in and seeing this. The water is going to be disrupted. There are going to be cranes out in the water. It's just going to be a lot of work. So that's something that's going to, hurt on our end of Atlantis. And so we are asking for a little bit of more movement in the numbers on that side, which Victoria has.
Yeah, if Hercules was able to split, pay 45% of the costs, like Luca said, we are, at disadvantage during that project time period. Tourists go out to the beach and they see a big crane in the water instead of a beautiful sunset. So we would ask that, again, Hercules pay 45% of those costs. And if we can see more movement in that area, then I think some of these creative solutions that we have both brought up would be a great idea. I think we could return to that social media campaign, the Blue Water Initiative, and the educational stuff, as you both had mentioned.
Well, thank you for that, Victoria. Just because you had brought up the term tourist, we do have some questions. So we'll just ask you, and then we could probably get into that. See, it's actually a known fact that since 1980, the ship has become famous for the incredible scuba diving site. However, you have refused to recognize the site to be viable and safe. So now we're just curious to know if there are any scuba diving activities still being undertaken there. That's the first question. I'll just finish it up. And secondly, if yes, is your government regulating the said activity? Because as far as we know, you guys, the government has stated it to be unsafe. So are there any penalizing, or if there is an activity? So because you brought that tourist, we just want to get your idea of that first.
Yeah, so this idea of ecotourism has become really popular, and it's something Atlantis is offering exclusively and has been, selling as an idea for tourists to come. And there are many coral reef sites and ecotourism sites in Atlantis. And the government believes that, after this turns into an artificial reef, it would be able to allow more diving to the site, which is not the case currently. to answer your question. And, we would like to hear a response on the 45% and what Hercules thinks of that number.
Okay, so thank you for raising the concern. So when we talk about the 45%, as you talked about, I feel we do have a little concern, but considering we could collaborate in a more positive way, if we can work this out, I think we can really consider the 45% about it. But I feel there are some concerns that we need to know. But Shivangi, do you have anything to add?
Definitely, Aparna. Thank you for that. With respect to the number, the reason why we are not reaching that number is because we have some information from our president that you are charging tourism fee for tourists to go to the Hercules ship. So that is a point of concern since Hercules belongs to us. It's technically and legally our property. So we do want to know more about whether the tourism fee, if the government has any idea of the tourism fee or who it leads to going. So if we get a clear answer from that, we could probably lead to 45%. Because our main concern is that if the tourism is because of our ship as well and the fees kept for that as well, we should also get a profit sharing on that.
That's a great question. I'm actually going to pass it to Victoria to talk about to answer that for us.
Yeah, so right now there has been no tourism. As we both stated, there is major safety concerns, but I mean, there is ecotourism all over Atlantis, and that is something that our government does take pride in. However, the division of the sites and the scuba different places that you can go scuba diving are not specifically divided up where we charge or anything like that. So I don't think that is a fruitful discussion for us to continue on. But however, we would like to talk about that ownership of all of the materials that come in, or the ownership of the ship of the coral reef once it is turned into an artificial reef. So Atlantis would like to maintain ownership of the artificial reef. We do feel that it is in our waters, and the ecosystem benefits are directly, for the ocean in general, but also for us as well. So Atlantis would like to maintain ownership.
Yes, thank you for putting that forward, Victoria. So considering the fact that, the very ship itself belongs to Hercules, I think we do have some concerns on the point of ownership. So what we would suggest is that the scuba divers were going inside, the commercial divers were going inside for the cleaning process, would also be bringing back any hazardous, materials that are there in the water, in the ship, which should again be recycled for any other purposes we feel. So if we can agree on this, then I feel Hercules would be willing to take the ownership of the materials that are being taken out from the ship specifically. But when it comes to the ownership of the whole whatever the conversion process, the artificial reef that we're talking about, I feel we can jointly own it, because at the end of the day, we will be giving you monetary amount as well. Apart from that, we're collaborating on a lot of other ideas. So I feel it will only be fair for us to go ahead and collaboratively own this. So what are your thoughts about that?
Aparna, you brought up 2 points here, one with the ownership that I want to address, and the second with bringing back any valuables. First with the valuables, we understand that there are things of value, which is really why we wanted to clear the air at the beginning. And I'm happy that you've shared with us that there are things you want to bring back. And, as a sign of our friendship and as a sign that currently the ship is owned by Hercules, we are okay with, any of those divers getting items of value that are of particular value to Hercules and bringing them back to Hercules. And, so that's the first point. And the second one is the ownership. As Victoria said, we believe, and Atlantis believes, that once the ship is turned into this artificial reef and, really just becomes part of the environment of Atlantis right off the shore, that the ownership should completely pass to Atlantis and just remain that way as it becomes part of the environment. And with that being said, and hearing about how you want it. We're willing to let you take more of the items. We would want to hear a response on that 45% number.
Well, thank you for that. There's definitely a lot to unpack here. There are like 3 offers on the table running around. So first one, with respect to the valuables that you've spoken of, if I have to be clear, if there are any valuables, if in terms of say monetary, or if you're thinking of any valuables that are concerning with respect to financial, then probably we could have a profit sharing. They're completely amenable to that. What we meant by value to our ship was that the ship is of an emotional value, and we have the structure of the ship is of such shape that we do not want to share the national secret of the ship. So that is valuable to us. Other than that, if there's any valuable in the ship, considering that this was a task, this was a war that we had done in unison, we are more than ready to share the value equally. So I think that is where we have confusion with respect to the term value. Secondly, okay, so yeah.
Shivangi, yeah, could I just ask you, just to clear the air, I think you've mentioned now about a national secret on this ship. Is there any more you can tell us about that, just so that we could understand, Hercules' position with that? Because I think that would really help us clear the air and move more on the numbers.
Definitely. Okay, Aparna, do you want to take that?
Yes, I don't mind if you, thank you, Shivangi. So I guess talking about the concerns we have on the part that you were talking about. So I guess what we wanted to tell about that is that the present structure, or the structure of the ship, the naval ship of Hercules, the thing is, there's a lot, the structure in itself is very different or unique in its way, and we want to protect the same. And currently the vessels that we're using right now also forms a part of the same unique structure that we have. So we feel it is a national importance that we protect that particular unique structure, which is exactly why we are concerned on this. So that is the reason, if that answers your question.
So the structure is special, so do you not want people to be able to investigate it, to copy it? Is that your concern?
Yes, correct.
Okay, we completely understand that. That's something that we really want to work together with you, and we have no interest in making this difficult for you regarding that issue. We actually have some more ideas about how we can agree to this, letting this remain a secret, but some more ideas about how we can really honor the ship and just bring some attention to how helpful it was for us. And I think Victoria has some things for us.
Yeah, so something that we thought would be a really unique idea and a creative solution to get us closer on the numbers would be a social media campaign on the awareness of destruction of the coral reefs. So we think something that we could label this is called a Clean Blue Water Initiative. And this would also include education of the youth, and even an implementation into a science curriculum program where we can really educate the younger generations on how impactful ships and all of these harmful chemicals, as mentioned in Exhibit 1, are to our oceans, and how we need to really preserve the environment. But however, we would need to hear again what you have in mind on those numbers, and that percentage is going to be tied to a lot of these solutions that we both have.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you, Victoria. I think, truly there are like a lot of collaborative offers left on the table without dealing with the numbers first. So let's probably go accordingly, and then we could tie them with the solutions. Firstly, I think we're very clear with the values of the thing, and we're very thankful and grateful for the fact that you accept and you have shown concern that you'd be allowing our divers to go free and clean it, considering that you have shown us the importance of what national security is. Secondly, with respect to coral reef ownership that you had spoken about, now what we feel is, since Hercules itself, it itself is a Herculean Navy ship, and we do feel that ownership, providing ownership specifically to you, would be a problem to us, because ultimately it was our national pride. But we are more than even full to collaborate with you, and probably, like, now we could probably tie our collaborative initiatives and commemorate the 100-year-old, as well as a gallery where we could divide the profits equally, and we could have a mutually collaborative solution there. but giving the ownership complete to you would be a disgrace, and going back to our nation with that would probably not be an ideal deal. Thirdly, with respect to tourism, the 45% number that you have stated, we do understand the fact that when your country is so famous for tourism, and a crane out there would be problematic. But then again, we haven't gotten answers with respect to the tourism fee that's there. So since you had already stated that it is not regulated and everyone goes anywhere for scuba diving, so is there a specific reason why there's no regulation with respect to the area where Hercules ship is concerned? Because our concern right now is for the fact that we feel like there is a fee that is being charged for tourism for scuba diving to the Hercules ship. So because it's in our ownership right now, so we do feel there needs to be a clear of air here.
Yeah, I can answer that question for you, Subhanji. I think Victoria before was saying about how, it's unregulated in the idea that, people are allowed to dive in different places. However, the government does license boats to go out to different sites, and any of these ecotourism sites does require a license. And so that is something the government has put in place to limit the number of people going and to really preserve the ecosystem. I think ownership is something we should definitely talk about right now. We imagine, like to understand your view of the ownership, when you say that you still own it, what is that going to mean for Atlantis and, what it can do with the coral reef?
Aparna, do you mind me answering the question?
Please go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Okay, when we mean with respect to ownership, if I got your question rightly, technically the boat was ours and we were in unison for a war. So we do believe that it comes time with a national pride and national integrity and commemorates the fact that we were a part of the war. But again, I reinstated in our introduction as well, because it's in your waters, our ship, and we have to come and venture into a joint mission. So with respect to the ownership, I still believe, I do want to address your concerns with respect to why you're so specific about you owning the ownership. So if you could please elaborate more on why is that an expectation right now? So we could be amicable and amenable for that.
Yeah, and the ownership is, something that we can talk about. And our viewpoint, it was going to be owned by Atlantis, because once it is transferred into an artificial reef, then it really is more or less a part of the water and a part of the ocean and the wildlife and the ecosystem. We can revisit that ownership discussion. However, the percentage is going to matter for us, especially if you're asking for ownership of the artificial reef. We would have to be looking closer to a 50-50 split, perhaps at 55%. So Atlantis, would be prepared to, ask that Hercules pay 55% of the total remediation costs of turning this ship into an artificial reef. And then, if we could see some movement on your end with the percentages, we could revisit the ownership.
Okay, thank you for putting that so clearly. So coming back to the concern, what we feel is that the reason why we feel the ownership is necessary, as Shivangi has stated, is because we have emotional value to it, but we do also understand your point and your perspective. So I think we can give you the ownership of the artificial reef. But, we are definitely, in fact, we were talking about the collaborative ideas as to how the art gallery commemorating the soldiers and everything. I think, I'm sure we will be commercializing it because for the tourists. So what we feel is that if we give you the ownership of the artificial reef that we are planning, then we are expecting for a 60% of profit, 60-40% of profit split, in which we will be taking 60%, if that is okay with you.
Aparna, I see that you've made the movement there on the ownership, and I think that is something that we can reflect in the price. However, the profit sharing is not something that we can agree to today. It's just off the table, but we are willing to have that reflect in the price. And we also want to bring up, the length of the project and how much each and how long and over what time the payments are going to be made, which Victoria has for us.
Yeah, so if Hercules was willing to pay 55% of the costs in remediating the ship, and I did want to go back to the point that we think this will be a great project for the environment, and we are glad that you guys are discussing with us today how to remediate this ship and create an artificial reef out of it. So we would ask that you pay that 55% of the costs and over a 3-year period. That way it can be spread out with the costs, and they wouldn't have to be due all at once. And along with what you had mentioned earlier, Shivani, with your commercial divers would be able to perform the remediation themselves.
Well, thank you for that, Victoria. But with respect to the 55%, I think there's a miscommunication here. We'd agreed for the 25% split for the conversion, if I'm not wrong, because we increased from 20 to 25%, considering primarily we were giving our commercial divers. So if we are on the same page on that, I'll just recap everything because, again, there's a lot on the table right now. So we had agreed firstly that the conversion would take place and we'd be providing 25% of the financial aid to you. And along with that, we'll be providing the commercial divers to clean the ship as well. So it'd be much easier for you to convert it. That was the first point. Secondly, with respect to ownership, we did see some movement after a lot of hustle. So we'd be willing to give you the ownership if if you are amicable to sharing the profits. Now, in terms of profits, what we mean is, since you have been so generous to come up with an idea of commemorating the 100-year mark, and we also come up with the fact that we could have an art gallery, probably immortalizing the fact that the war had got us in unison. So we could be able to share the profits there. But since there's a lot of hustle right now, we'd be more than amicable to probably come down with the profit sharing of 50-50%. So you do get the ownership and we do get a 50-50 profit percentage under the guarantee that we have some credit on the fact that we get a diving site being named or a reef being named, because then again, this war, since you're commemorating the 100-year war, so it'd be like a matter of goodwill to either name the diving site or the reef. So what are your thoughts on that?
Thank you for that recap, Shivangi. As we are here just under 10 minutes, we are getting close to a deal. I just want to clear up one thing with the numbers and with the profit sharing. So the last thing Victoria said was that we would want you to pay 55%. And if I heard you correctly, you just mentioned 25%, how you did at the beginning. You used the number 25%. Okay, so what we would be willing to do, because because profit sharing is off the table, we would be willing to pay 55% of the costs. We would pay 55%, you would pay 45%. We would get the ownership. And on top of that, that would be a 3-year construction, or a 3-year project. And on top of all these creative solutions, like we mentioned. So it's we pay 55, you pay 45, no profit sharing, because it's just off the table for us. And these creative solutions that Victoria has brought up.
Well, thank you for that, Luca. I do not seem to understand how this is balancing, because you're getting the ownership of the ship that we own. You're definitely taking a major financial aid to be paid expense, but in return, we're also giving our commercial divers. So I do not see how it's getting balanced, but we do acknowledge and appreciate the fact that you are coming down to we are coming down to a moment out here. But then again, just to reiterate what you said, we really want some profit sharing because since we are providing the commercial divers, and we do not know, other than probably clearing how much other costs would be taken into place for conversion. And since the art gallery is going to be at place, we would want profit sharing. But if you're not okay with it, we probably want the reef's name to be on our side, even if you own the ship, at least to commemorate us. and our contribution to that. Do you have anything to add to that, Aparna?
Yes, thank you, Shivangi, for that. So apart from what Shivangi has stated, I also have one more concern, since we were talking about the 45% of profit, the cost sharing that we talked about. I guess we would be happy to come down to 40% now to, contribute to the conversion of the coral reef. But we kind of feel that we might not have a leg to stand if we are being pressurized with the economic situations right now in our country. So it'd be really great if you could give us, if you can, extend the time period from 3 years to, 5 years. That would be really great.
Aparna, thank you for that offer. And we are not in the position to be able to have this project be 5 years. As we had mentioned earlier, it is going to be a big eyesore and destructive for our tourism, especially bouncing back after the pandemic. However, we would be able to do the 40% without profit sharing. And then the ownership would still be with us. And we would also be able to do those creative solutions and name the ship after the site, as you had mentioned.
Well, thank you for that, Victoria. Now, since there's a lot of hustle right now, and since we have to move somewhere, okay, with respect to ownership, you could have it probably not a profit sharing as well, and will be amenable to it. But in return, if you guarantee that we get some cost, some sharing with respect to the tourism. If we are not if we are not sharing profits on the reef itself with respect to any activities being undertaken, because we had collaborated for the art gallery. So if you could have that money, we'd still want money for the tourism fee that you had stated earlier, because right now, I do not see the balance out here. We have come down from 20 to 45%. You're getting the ownership. We are providing commercial divers. So we just want your expectation correctly with respect to that. And secondly, I'm really sorry, I'll just wind it up. Secondly, you also stated about a timeline, and we do understand that there's an aspect of tourism that will be neglected for you. So we'd be amicable to stick to your guidelines, but if you're fine with us providing an installment-based financial aid, because like Aparna reinstated, it's not possible for us to give you a lump sum right now. So if we could give you an installment-wise over a period of 5 years, so it would not be an lump sum amount. And considering that the conversion will take years, I think providing it in installment-wise would also suffice. So I would love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, Shivangi, as we only have a couple minutes left, I think hearing the numbers, we have a really good agreement that we can put on the table right now. First, in light of the ownership and in light of us not being able to share profits from any of the creative solutions or the licenses, we are willing to pay more. So we would pay 65% and you would pay 35%. So we're paying that 5% more. On top of that, we would be willing to do the installment over 3 years, and the construction would be expected to take 3 years. So that's really the heart of the agreement. On top of the ownership, going to Atlantis. So it'd be 65-35, 3 years, and ownership going to us. And these creative solutions and that framework we would bring back to the president to talk about, but that really is the core that we're willing to talk about.
Well, thank you for that. Okay, Aparna, do you want to speak?
Yes, thank you so much. One second, there's some internet issue over here. Yeah. So thank you. Thank you for putting that very clearly. We just we want to add one more thing, is that we would be naming the reef in our Hercules name. That is we will be honoring the Hercules sailors who have lost their life. Is that correct? We will be honoring them and naming the artificial reef that you're planning to convert. I think you forgot to add that.
Yes, that would also be in the deal.
And something we would be wanting to do, as well as naming the reef after the ship, is that we would want to make a very professional underwater memorial to the ship and the sailors, it's very common in these scuba sites to have a little plaque, explaining what happened. And I think it would just really bring tourism to that area. But with everything you said on top of that, we're ready to agree right now.
Okay,
Yes,
please go ahead.
Okay, thank you for that, Aparna. Okay, I think we've come down to a deal. We have agreed to give you 35% of the financial aid along with our commercial divers doing the cleaning process. You get the ownership and we pay the money over the course of 3 years with installments. And in return, you'll be naming the reef in our name to commemorate the war as well. If we are going in the right direction, I do still feel that we are going at a loss here because we do feel that, except the fact that we do feel that we are providing commercial divers and we are also taking the burden of 35% and you're getting the complete ownership. So if not profit sharing, we'd like to hear from you. Why exactly are you not open about profit sharing?
We are unable to profit share. That's not in our authority. So we cannot do that here today. However, something that we would be able to do is give you 5% more. We could, pay more on this remediation effort. We are already paying this percentage, and so we could pay 70% of the costs to remediate the ship into an artificial reef. And with that 70%, that's already very generous because, this is a step of goodwill on our end, moving towards the ecosystem and the environment, because, like we had all established, it is your ship. And the cost of removal would have been completely on you. So we hope that we can reach a deal with you today.
Okay, thank you for putting that so clearly. We do, you've been more generous in accommodating, and we really acknowledge and appreciate that. We want you to know that we really appreciate, and 70% would work for us. And one more thing is that, with regard to the offers that we were talking about, we understand that, you couldn't come to a decision today with regard to the profit sharing and everything. So I guess we can always have another day to talk about this. So that wouldn't be a problem from our side. So thank you for being so generous. And Shivangi, do you like to add something?
Yes, thank you for that. But now, just to summarize everything, we have agreed for 35% and you have agreed for a greater deal of 70%. You'll get the ownership and we'll be paying installments over a span of 3 years. And in return, you'll also be providing, you'll be naming us for commemorating it, and you'll be providing the commercial divers. I think it was a really great deal, and we'd love to come across and settle the agreement in the next session. And as a matter of goodwill, our president has also advised us that we'd be very open to collaborating with you in future on a larger scale of conservating and providing awareness to against ocean degradation. So as a matter of goodwill, we'd be really happy if you could communicate anytime, and we'd be really helpful. We'd be loving it if you could want to reach out to us, and we'd be helpful for any international campaigns that you'd be looking forward to. So that was
Thank
really
you so
nice.
much. Thank you so much, Shivangi and Aparna, as we are out of time. We will bring this back to our president. Thanks so much for being with us here today.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. We've been very cooperative, and I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, so we're going to go ahead and move on into the post-negotiation analysis. I'm going to place you guys in breakout rooms, and you'll have 5 minutes to discuss.
Hey, Kara, we as judges can talk and not be heard by them now, right?
Correct.
So I just wanted to ask the other judges if they heard what I heard, which was the revealing by Hercules of the divers at no cost, or I'm sorry, at cost rather than at profit. I just wasn't clear if that's exactly what was said, in part because it tells us in the instructions they're not supposed to reveal that, but I thought I heard the Hercules team reveal it.
Yeah, I was a bit confused if they revealed it or if they just said that they would take that cost, that they would get they would take the cost of the scuba divers So I was a bit confused whether they revealed it or whether they just concealed it by saying we will cover the commercial scuba divers or the commercial divers. So I was a bit confused. How about the other judges?
I heard, I think what you're saying there, Miguel, that it was essentially free. So I don't think they revealed the no cost. They may have gone further by offering them for free.
Thank you. I didn't want to hold it against them if I had misunderstood.
Right. In my opinion, I heard at no cost, and I don't know if that was an attempt, as Michael and Damian are saying, to cover up the fact that they shouldn't reveal that they would be paying them at cost. But I don't know if there was some confusion there, but it doesn't seem to have been revealed that they would pay at cost, at least in my opinion. Yeah. However, they are off in their numbers if they're incurring that amount without knowing that in their confidential, they should not be incurring that and just have them at cost. I don't know if there was confusion with their reading of the problem.
Mm. So, Kara, I just want to make sure, because I don't have I do have the rules in front of me, but I'm a bit unsure. Can the judges discuss what they have heard now, or are we supposed to make our scoring prior to discussing?
Yeah, so because this is the final round, it's going to work a little bit differently than the rounds prior. So what I'm going to do is at the end of this 5 minutes, I'll bring the competitors back. They'll present to you their self-evaluations. They'll each have 5 minutes. And then at the end of that, I will move them to another breakout room and judges will have time to fill out their score sheets. And then after that, but before feedback, the tournament directors are going to come in, and I believe they're going to move the judges to a breakout room so that they can tell you guys who won, so that during the feedback period, you guys can give them feedback and then also announce the winner.
Okay, thanks.
Mm-hmm.
So, fellow judges, I just have one question as to how to evaluate, just like David said. As I read the problem, it is very sensitive to Hercules to reveal that the vessel has a very special structure. And as I heard it, they revealed that this was a secret to them. And as I've read the problem, it says that the president of Hercules is afraid that Atlantis would get to know about this special structure. So now that it has been revealed, I guess Atlantis divers could go down to the vessel and inspect it before the structure has been modified. So I'm just curious if you saw that or read that as a severe problem, that they did mention the structure as being a national secret.
Well, I guess, Miguel, that goes to the ownership discussion, doesn't it? Right? In some respects. But I appreciate the sensitivity. I'm just saying the way that I think it played out was by way of the ownership. If the ownership is given to Atlantis, then, you know, what does that mean for the confidentiality that you raise here, right?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you raising that issue, because I was wondering, geez, for the past 40 years since they had done whatever cleanup they did, it's been available for people to be diving through anyways.
Yeah.
The other team should be on their way back now.
Who is doing their post first, Ms. Rocky?
You guys are going to be doing your post first.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so I think we have all of the competitors back. I'm going to go ahead and move team number 595 to the waiting room. Okay, so you guys will have 5 minutes to present your post-negotiation analysis, and I'll start the timer whenever you guys begin.
Thank you, and thank you, judges, for being here and judging this round. This has been a great competition, and it's really great to go against teams of such quality as the team we just went against. We really had a lot of fun. Our plan and tone going into this was to be collaborative and work as teammates. As the facts said, we have been longstanding allies, and we really didn't want to get bogged down at any point in the negotiation. We wanted to keep things moving and come to an amicable solution and not fight about anything, which I think we did a really good job at asking some questions at the beginning. Really, we heard them talking about the emotional value of the wreck to them, and also that there were some secrets, some of their secrets on the ship, which we made sure to revisit and address. So we wanted to keep things moving and address their concerns and work together as teammates. I think Victoria had a really nice introduction where she just explained who we were, why we were here. And then rather than go into something aggressive, we asked them how they were doing and what their thoughts were on the negotiation. So we kept that going back and forth, which I think worked really well for us and was our plan. And so Victoria has some more for us.
Yeah, so I thought that Luca and I did work well as a team. We had divided up roles, and I was coming in mostly with the offers and the new creative ideas that were going to be brought in. I really made sure to tailor our creative solutions to things that they had brought up early in the discussion. They had brought up that there was emotional value in the ship. And so I really was able to explain and provide solutions that were tailored to their emotional value. For example, the commemorative event. And then also as Luca had said, the underwater memorial site. There were a few things that were hard lines for us, and we had to make sure that we respected our client's wishes. We felt like we advocated for our client in a good way on those aspects, not giving too much while also making sure that we were as transparent as we could be while advocating for our client. And back to those roles, I did want to talk about how Luca was able to come in there with those justifications and tell them why we were offering what we were offering. I think it helped with clarity with our offers. And Luca, do you have anything else that you would like to add to that?
Yeah, I think at the beginning, we had some creative solutions, like Victoria said, at the end and in the middle to really address their emotional needs. I think at the beginning we did see creative solutions from both sides, and we realized that what is really important for us to talk about our bottom lines in terms of the cost and really keep things going, because there was a lot being said on both sides. Especially as they brought in the divers and the ownership. The divers were something our client was all right with, but the ownership was something that we needed because we wanted to use it as a site. And so we made sure to really, ask gently questions about that, and we responded well. And the thing that we could give were creative solutions and more money on the costs. So I think we made sure to attentively listen to all those issues that they were bringing up, the ownership, the secrets, their dive team. And we said, okay, we can agree to these things, but maybe we want you to pay more money if you're asking for something. And if we want ownership, we'll ask for more money. I think at some points in the middle and at the end, we weren't hearing some clear numbers, and they were bringing up the profit sharing a lot, which was not something we could agree to or had authority to. I think me and Victoria both clearly stated a few times how we didn't have authority to talk about the profit sharing and how we wanted to reflect monetarily in other ways with the sharing of the costs. And so I think at the end, we really did a good job bringing it to a head there with the agreement and really getting some clear terms on the table because there was a lot being said. I think Victoria did a great job having some offers ready And whenever I passed it to her, she did have those offers ready and was able to keep things moving, which we really think helped with the relationship with the other team and helped things move towards an agreement at the end. And so thank you so much for being here. And we really had a great time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and readmit the other team. And move you guys to the weight room. Okay, so you guys will have 5 minutes to present your post-negotiation analysis, and I'll start the timer whenever you guys begin.
Okay. Good evening. Hi, Shrangi. So I guess before we go ahead with post negotiation, we can segregate it equally so that we can take it forward very structurally. So I'll be dealing with the fact that what we're happy about in this session and what we're glad that we did. And the next thing is what we can improve, or what if we had a chance to go back to the table again, what we could have done better, and which Shivangi will be dealing with. So I guess it would be only fair if we start by acknowledging the fact how Luca and Victoria was very respectful and civil, and in fact we were able to actively listen to their concerns, and I'm really glad that we were able to give them the comfort zone to be honest with us and whatever their concerns are. And I think in the right time we were able to come up with the installment concept, because we weren't moving anywhere with the ownership or the cost percentage that we were intending to split. Since that, the idea of installment kind of gave a push and took the session forward, and we in fact ethically worked out this session without having to do any positional bargaining, and we were able to meet each other halfway. For example, we were able to give them ownership, and I think in return they gave us the 70-30% of cost sharing, which is in fact was a driving factor in the session, I would say. So we were able to, I think we were able to do justice to we would be able to do justice to our country by, when we go back today, because we are getting the name engraved in our favor, which is a really big thing for Hercules. And we were also able to add some value by, collaborating equally, and came up with really a lot of creative solutions. And I'm really glad they were also accommodative of that. And I feel the internet issue that I had in between kind of made me nervous. Had it not been for internet, I think I would have done it in a more better way. So yes, I guess that is all. And I think as a learning experience, what I would take back is that, collaboration can really help us out. So, and thank you, Shivangi, for being an amazing teammate.
Thank you, Aparna. Thank you for putting it quite neatly, actually. Like you said, both the parties were quite receptive and passionate about each other's interests. And with seasoned negotiators like them, I truly enjoyed the process. Now, since there was a problem at hand that was not unpacked properly to us earlier, it was important for us to take the responsibility of advancing a relationship, hearing them out more carefully, and being flexible enough to meet their interests, while of course not compromising on us. So probably I'll talk a bit about what our strategy was to the process, and then I'll be dealing with what if we had given a chance, what we do differently. So our strategy was to be as flexible enough as possible, but more than that, flesh out as much as information as we could, asking questions at the start of the hour. So we did ask questions as to tourism fee, and why do you want to not split the profit sharing percentage with respect to ownership. So we wanted to flesh out as much as information as we could, ask more targeted questions, and then get into the process of bargaining. And we did start with a low ball, even though we had 45% in our hand to provide financial aid. We wanted to start with 25, but again, they were accommodative enough to get to 70%, get their share of 70%. But yes, again, there were times when we reached an impasse, but we did a bit of log rolling, like you said, the insurance, the installments that we bought, and giving away the ownership, coming up with alternatives, because we brought the name of the reef to be named for us as a break-even deal. So so somehow we managed to reach a consensus for an agreement. Now, if given a chance as to what we do differently, and if there was something I would take a lesson back home, is with respect to being more elaborate and structured with respect to questions. I do feel that with respect to tourism fee, we could have gotten better answers, and also we could have been more targeted enough to question them. Secondly, we felt that all our offers were all over the place. Like every person was giving a creative solution, but not hooting to numbers. So we just felt that it was important for us to recap every now and then to get to some solution. But then again, there was a disagreement here and there. So we just felt everything could have been packed better and structured. Thirdly, with respect to, we also had a concern with respect to how the cost of the conversion was going to take into place, because it was their institution and their research team who was doing. So we wanted to come up and bring a joint mission and a joint committee to convert the cost. But then again, we didn't really get much time to actually roll about and get into all the offers. So I do feel that we could have managed time better and get it more structured and not really get into creative solutions, but really understand as to what the person wants and what is the interest at the start. So yes, that's in the end. Thank you for Aparna, and I think we did reach a solution that could be taken back to our country properly, and definitely there's another time to deal with the other clauses for the agreement. So again, thank you judges for listening to us so patiently, and we definitely appreciate your feedback. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and bring everybody back. Okay, at this time, I'm going to move everybody to the wait room except for the judges so they can go ahead and fill out their score sheets. Okay, judges, I think I have everybody in the waiting room. You guys can go ahead and fill out your score sheets whenever you're ready. When you're done, just please let me know so I know when to bring people back.
All set, Kara. Hey, Kara, could you explain again? The last time we sort of sent in the things, you got a notice that we submitted our stuff, and then we just went into a conversation with everyone, not even discussing who won or not. But this time we're going to actually know before we have the conversation with the contestants?
Yeah, so this time the tournament directors are going to, once they get all the score sheets, they'll enter the Zoom room, and I'll put all of you guys and the tournament directors, the judges and the tournament directors, in a breakout room, and they'll let you guys know who the winner is.
Okay. And then they'll also let the winners themselves know, or are we supposed to be opening an electronic envelope and making a big deal about it?
I believe so, but I'll double check on that, but yeah, I believe so.
Okay.
Hi, Kara. I just submitted my score sheets as well.
Perfect. The tournament director should be joining any minute.
Okay, Kara, I'm done at my end. It's Damien.
Thank you.
Hey, Kara, sorry, I'm not turning my camera on, but if you can put the judges, Professor Berger and Kevin Marshall, and if Alexis Santos shows up, she should also be in.
Tyler, she needs the Zoom link.
Oh, I sent it in here. Let
She
me
got
see.
kicked out of the
Oh,
before
okay.
she could get onto it.
Okay. But yeah, put us in a breakout room when Alexis gets here.
Tyler, I'm actually looking at it right now. I think since you're the host.
Oh, I have to do it.
Yeah.
I hate that it does that. That it makes me.
Hey, thanks for all your hard work, Kara. We really appreciate you
Kara.
doing this.
Kara is seriously the MVP. No, not Kara. Kevin.
Hey, Tyler,
Yeah.
could you please put the Zoom link in the TANC chat for Alexis? I think she just got kicked out and wasn't able to click on the link.
Yeah, I put it in, but I don't. Did it not go?
Submitted her. It looks like she's in the waiting room, so she should be joining any second.
Perfect.
Perfect.
Awesome.
And let me assign. All right, we're gonna pull into. I'm gonna delete. Are they in the other Zoom rooms, Kara, or are they in the waiting room?
They're in the waiting room right now.
Okay, I just have to delete your other two breakout rooms, but it's not a problem because I don't think we're gonna use them anymore anyway. All right, we will be back, Kara.
Sounds good.
Okay, Kara, so once they're all back, you can go ahead and bring competitors in, and I'm just going to make you the full host so that way we don't have any other issues.
Okay, sounds good.
Looks like we're still missing Professor Berger.
I think we're just waiting on one more.
Okay.
Okay, I think that's everybody. I'm gonna go ahead and bring the participants back now. I think that's everybody, Tyler.
Okay, perfect. Our judges can kick it off with feedback.
Great, and I believe I get to do the honors. So hello, everybody. I'm going to say good morning, good afternoon, and good night, not knowing exactly where everybody is, but I think we have people from around the world and people watching online. So it's been a great privilege to watch this. My name is Damien Cote. I reside in Calgary, Alberta, Canada, that is. And first, I want to congratulate everybody. I think it was evident to me, and I assume my colleagues, why you found your way to the final round. So I think it was a privilege to watch. Definitely a good matchup and definitely some high caliber. So kudos to all of you. I'm going to provide feedback, and I am quite aware that it's always odd to give feedback in a final round. Relative to the preliminary rounds, when you're listening there, you're thinking, maybe I can take this to the next round. When you're listening in the final rounds, perhaps you're thinking, maybe I can take this to the next competition or maybe in life at some point. But in any respect, all of us will have a bit of feedback for you. But we are mindful that you've listened to a lot of feedback up until now and you made it this far. So I'm going to go to both teams as we have, I think, throughout the competition, something we liked and something food for thought. So in no particular order, I'll start with Atlantis, so Luca and Victoria. Something I liked that I want to reinforce, I'm going to call it building a puzzle. And you'll have to forgive me, I'm looking at notes on a different screen here. I think we're all used to that by now. So what do I mean by that? Building a puzzle. So it's about information gathering, but moreover, it's also about piecing together that information, right? So first you need to understand what the pieces of the puzzle are, but then you need to build the puzzle. And what did I see on your side? How did this play out? I saw the good listening, I saw the paraphrasing, and I saw the questions being asked, pointed questions, targeting specific issues for which you needed information. So I thought that was reactionary where it needed to be, but also proactive in terms of how you had prepared for the round. And you needed that mixture, and I think it served you well. You were able to detect certain things, pick up on certain information, and move forward with that by building, right? And so much so that I think I caught Luca asking twice this whole idea of, were there any items of value on the ship? So that suggested to me that you were after something. When you didn't get the answers, you returned to it with some discipline. And I always like to see that because ultimately they too have confidential facts. So obviously you're looking to get some of that information. You did that well, well done. Something to consider for the future, I'm still in Atlantis, Luca, Victoria, is what I'd call, and hopefully you're familiar, I may be dating myself, but the movie, it's Groundhog Day. So what do I mean by that? Why is that at issue? It's the art of compromise. When more specifically in this case, when you're negotiating, obviously the last thing you want to do is to repeat the same thing tomorrow or at the next meeting. So what am I getting at? You want a sustainable agreement, one that will last, one that will hold. And to achieve that, sometimes a compromise where you give a bit and receive a bit is helpful. Now, it's tough to know because you have imperfect information at the table, But when you air things out, when you ask questions, you can kind of get a sense. So what did I see here at the table? How did this play out? I saw movement from an opening position of 15% on the cost sharing to, I believe you finished near 70 or 65, or anyways, way down the scale. So there was movement on a scale. But then what else did I see? I saw a signal from the other side about the linking of the tourism fee with the sliding scale. So they sent you a signal at some point, and your response to that was this whole notion that you can't split the tourism fee. Now, I'd invite you to look in your confidential facts after the second to last paragraph. There's this notion of not revealing that information. I'm not sure I saw the notion of completely being against it. So, which is a bit of a nuance, but an important one here. So, bottom line is to get to the sustainable agreement, try to sometimes use value creation, because this was focused on a sliding scale. That allows you to disrupt the dynamic that you may fall into, right? Which in this case, again, was the sliding scale. So there was a lot of creative solutions being floated around, but they weren't really linked from a value creation at the table perspective. And that could have enhanced a bit of a departure, a bit of a disruption from the back and forth on the just how far the scale are we going, right? And the tourism fee was an example, but the way it played out didn't give us much room to maneuver. So consider that for the future, a sustainable agreement. Okay, moving on to Hercules, Shivangi, and Aparna. What I liked about you, I'm going to call busy airports. Why? What do I mean by that? It's this whole idea that when you're landing at a busy airport, well, when we used to anyways, you'll recall that sometimes you're in a holding pattern, right? Because the runway is full and you find yourself circling around the airport until there's an opening for you. And how did this play out in this round? I saw the holding pattern from your side in terms of some of the things you were doing. It was tactfully done. It was the holding of certain facts, right? More specifically, so when you did make that connection between the sliding scale and the tourism fee, it came back twice, I think, where the other side, where you signaled, but the other side was kind of going back and forth with you, and you spoke of an imbalance at least twice. So what did you do when you spoke about the imbalance? You had put a lot on the table, and then you put the spotlight on it. It's like, look how imbalanced this has become. And what that resulted in the other side through that tactic is it forced movement. Because you used the word imbalance twice, you spoke of the concept more than twice, but each time the 15% became 20, became 30, became 45. So you were getting movement on the other side through spotlighting that imbalance and through playing that holding pattern a little more, right? Just, I could have called this poker, keeping your cards close to your chest, right? So well done in that respect. Something to consider for the future, I'm calling check your blind spot. So when we drive, right, we have to look over our shoulder. And what do I mean by that? I mean, this whole idea of seeking first to understand, or put differently, the information gathering. So what played out in this round? There was a lot of creative solutions, many of which came from your side. But reflect on when they came and ask yourself, were those solutions you had prepared in advance? And I think the answer to that is yes, given when they came out. But here's the issue. They weren't at that point calibrated to be sustainable. They weren't calibrated in that you hadn't done at that time enough information gathering to tweak the ideas you had prepared so as to meet the interests of the other side as well as your own. So, and when you do that, when you go too quickly to creativity, you're suggesting to me, I mean, how can this be attentive to the other side's interests? First, you want to do effective and thorough information gathering so that you could calibrate those ideas you had prepared so as to make the ultimate solution a sustainable one for both parties. Okay, so just a little too early on the creative solutions, make sure to do information gathering. In other words, make sure you check your blind spots before you begin on creative solutions. So there you go, that's my feedback. I'm not sure, I forget who goes next, but maybe if we, so David, you're muted, so I'll pass it over to you.
Sure, thank you. I will repeat everything that he said by just simply saying ditto. I believe everyone began very, very well, and I believe you ended very, very well. And in the middle, you each found your own paths toward expressing your interests and trying to recognize the other sides. What I don't think anyone did very well, though, was the information gathering in the middle. People were asking questions, which is fantastic. But negotiations are sometimes a little bit like depositions. You have to answer the question, but you should only answer the question asked. Don't volunteer and go beyond believing that you know what they're really trying to get at. Allow them to continue to ask the questions to show what is of a concern to them. Sometimes you end up giving away more in anticipation of, oh, I can help short circuit this whole process. I know what they're trying to focus us on, and let's just be done with that because I want to get back to what's important for me. And if you do that, you may be actually putting words into their mouths. You may be putting dollars onto their side of the table. I think the other element that I would encourage everyone to pay attention to is timing. There wasn't a lot of discussion about the fact that this happened 90 years ago. The ship stayed there for 50 years. So 40 years ago, the two sides worked together to sort of clean up the boat a little bit. And now 40 years later, it's only because of a recent election that this seems to be an important thing all of a sudden. The reason why I believe that that's important is because, you know, from the Hercules point of view, that boat has been there with people looking at it for 40 years. And yet you've been instructed, as clients often do, oh, go negotiate something great, but don't mess up the relationship, which is a tough order, because how do you negotiate if everything you do, you worry that the other side is going to say, oh, that's it, that's the end. So pay attention to the timing of the history and then into the future, which is my last comment. We focused on cost, and yet there's an implementation process here that has to go into effect. No one talked about how we were going to work through that into the future to make sure that it actually happened in 3 years. How was Hercules going to value the divers? It's potential that Atlantis gave up far more, and Hercules didn't need to accept that. They could have used those dollars in another way. They could have responded, hey, Atlantis, I know you want to raise it to 70% from 65. I think we're okay at 65 if you'll give us something else. In part because by my estimate of the numbers, the value of the diving that you were contributing probably exceeded the 35% of the total cost anyways. So to say that we'll cover 30% only, well, if you're going to do the diving, which you had committed to, that may have been greater than 30% anyways. So the end result, however, is, again, as Damien mentioned, it's clear that you all deserve to be in the finals. Congratulations on that. And excuse me, the best of luck to everyone.
I guess it's my turn now. Congratulations to all. It has been said already, but it can never be said enough. So congratulations for reaching here. On my behalf, I'll try to mention a couple of points on each side, knowing that Damian and David have done an excellent job already. So I'll just try to pick up some loose ends if I could offer you some thoughts of mine. So again, starting with Atlantis, I think that David mentioned already that you've done great, not David, sorry, Damian, good listening, and you showed your skills there, and through the process that helped you at the beginning in the fact finding for as long as that lasted. And I have to say that Luca's particular language at the beginning, comforting the other side, saying that I understand you have this emotional connection, and we think it's a great idea about the name of the reef. And again, later on, you again took in that emotional connection they have with the deceased and the celebrations and everything. So I think that there was good recognition of the interests on the other side, and that helped you to build on to other things and ask your questions following that. And Victoria took the other side of the teamwork balance on asking creative questions and offering solutions. So one of you was reassuring and responding, and the other one was creating and working well together. So that was good to see that you have that teamwork and that good collaboration with each other. And perhaps where I would suggest perhaps some improvement in the future would be perhaps the structure that you had on how you discussed things. Obviously, it came up early on the issue of an agenda. I think from the other side, Sivansi mentioned that. You didn't particularly want to talk about it more, and you moved on to dived into price setting and percentages, which was good because that's what you wanted to talk about. But then it didn't help you narrow the discussion on the topics that you wanted to discuss. So you ended up going back and forth, creating solutions, and then back again, talking percentages. Obviously, they're linked, but it didn't give you some concrete thinking process and structure for the discussion. So that would be something to take in for the future. But again, you did a very good job, and it was a difficult problem to talk to and discuss. And moving on to team 595, I think that Hercules, you did a very good job. I mentioned the agenda setting, obviously, and the opening that you did very well. But I think that your teamwork exactly worked very well in terms of communicating with each other. It's difficult to do that being remote and having different locations. But I picked up on a couple of occasions Sivansi mentioning, Aparna, would you like to take that question? And then on the other side, Aparna also directed the talking stick to Sivansi to respond on other questions. So I think that you worked on that very well, and you had some chemistry between you two on who's responding to what. And I think that actually paid off when you were trying to build on each other's arguments and rebut some of the questions you were receiving. And not to dwell too long, I would just offer you perhaps some food for thought for the future. It's already been said by both David and Damyan that the information gathering process was struggling probably on both sides. What I would like to perhaps emphasize is that on your information gathering aspect of it, you could ask more questions at the beginning as numbers starting to flow. Obviously, they were perhaps arbitrary, or you could ask for more justifications on why they offer 15% to begin with. Why did they move on? And David and Damyan actually mentioned that you picked that up and you tried to reinforce your opinion and increase the percentage of the split later on. And Sivansi did that a couple of times by going back to ask more questions on the profit share, and that's what brought the percentage up. I think that if you could ask more justifications and more actual reason behind the numbers, not just stick to a tango where two sides are just volunteering numbers just to bring the percentage in the middle, that would help you advance your interests further. But all in all, I think it was a great effort from both teams. And congratulations for coming here and to this stage. And just before I pass it off to Michael, I would just like to congratulate the organizers as well. It's an excellent job so far, and I really enjoyed, and I think everybody I've spoken to has really enjoyed being part of this. And I think it's hugely because of your organization and commitment to this competition. So thank you for organizing it. And Michael, I think the floor is yours now.
Thank you, George, and thank you, Damien and David, for very qualitative feedback. And to the participants, I can echo what my fellow judges said. You are indeed great. You being in the finals shows that you are top of class in terms of your age and experience already. So huge congratulations on that. You have a bright future on negotiation and conflict resolution matters, I'm pretty sure. So yeah, my name is Mikkel Godso. I'm from Denmark, and I'm given the honor to give the latest or the last feedback. So I will just mention 2 positive things from each team and 2 things that could have been done a little better. I'll start with team 140, and one of the positive things I saw many in both teams, but one of the things I want to highlight was that at one point Luca, you did some reflection back to them when they had given you some information about it was an emotional place for them. It was they would like a plague, memorial plague, and stuff like that. You reflected that back to them, showing empathy, showing that you have listened. That is always a very good thing to do. Then another positive thing you did at one point was also that you mentioned in terms of our friendship between our states and the respect we have for you. Of course, we would give you access to retrieve items and bring them back before the restoration process. So again, showing this kind of respect and trust building is crucial in negotiation. So I really like that. One of the things I would like you to pay attention to, especially when you have another party that is not having English as a mother tongue, is to be very clear when you talk about percentages. For instance, when you put the number 15 on the table, to me it rang like 50. And sometimes, it can be, maybe the other team did hear it at 15, but if they misunderstand it, you come off wrong in your anchoring and you start talking past each other. So make sure you say 15 and say it with courage. And by courage, I mean saying it very explicitly, because what very often happens is, that 15 is low. You can go up to 75. So sometimes when you internally know that you can go way higher than what you're offering, sometimes you almost spit it out as if you cannot really hold on to it because you don't really believe it yourself that you're going to end up there. So then you say, so my offer is 15. So you say it very quickly, and then it becomes unclear. So just a very human thing to do, but we want you to enhance the level because you are great already. And then another thing I would have liked to see, and this actually goes to both teams, but you could have done it again because the other team posted an agenda in the chat. Maybe you could have done the sum up in the chat, because it is so crucial that each party goes back with exactly the same proposal, so that you don't risk that someone is taking an extra item back in their summing up and you are missing that item, and then later it can bring confusion whether or not it was agreed or not. So when you do sum up, maybe sum up in the chat, and you could have done that because the other party brought up the agenda in the chat, right? Okay, so for team 595, again, well done, well job done. I would like to say also, because you have a very good English, but you also have English as a second language, maybe even third language, I don't know. Be aware of the speed sometimes, because of course you have an accent that is very natural, and you have so much you want to say to the other team, and sometimes when you speak very quickly, maybe you miss some of your key points to get heard and understood thoroughly by the other party. And the reason I'm covering this is because some of the things you say have a huge value, and it also has a huge value in convincing them to do something. But if you speak too fast, then maybe the convincing factor becomes smaller than it could have been. So the value of your statements are great, but the transmission of the value loses value, right? So that I would like you to pay attention to. I like the agenda. I think George already mentioned that, but putting the agenda in the chat, maybe you could also then have followed up. Maybe midway said, well, this is where we are now, and maybe also in the end, just to use the chat actively. As in person, you would use a whiteboard or something like that to to keep track. Because as we did see in the summary from Team 140, they actually missed a couple of points where you had to say, well, what about the memorial or whatever? You know, there were some things that you added to the summary. One thing I also liked, I think it was you, Shivanti, maybe it was Aparna, I didn't put it in my notes, was in the end, you kept talking about these profits, the profit split, and you were so good at sticking to that they just gave you extra percentages, and they gave you 5 extra percentages from 65 to 70. So being persistent sometimes also pays in the end. What I think both teams could have done in terms of the profit split, maybe even more so with Team 595, because you're the one who actually wants the profit split, was maybe to have thought in either taking a break or beforehand thought about how could this be done. If they have 20 sites, maybe we could say it would be 1/20th of the profits, just to make it mathematically easy to comprehend what you're asking. If they have 20 sites and yours is one of them, maybe 1/20 of the profits it could be done. Maybe if tickets are sold specifically to the site, that could be a 50-50 split. So again, because when it becomes very fluffy, it becomes very difficult to agree to, right? Okay, the last thing I would like to raise, and as a thing I would have liked you to be more considerate to, was giving up the ownership, because your president says in the paper that the reason he wants a profit split is because the vessel is still the property of Hercules. So if he thinks that the reason he, after the conversion, should still be authorized to have profits, it is because he believes it is still the property of Hercules. So if you have given up ownership, I'm afraid your president might be a bit troubled by that. The other thing was that you shared the secret structure of the vessel was a concern of you. You didn't need to share that. You know, sometimes people ask you questions and they don't have the claim to hear every truthful answer to that. You could have stated, we are not authorized to share our concern. Just simply say, unfortunately, this is not something we can share, because right now you have shared that there's something special with the structure. So now, if Atlantis was crooks, were crooks, they could dive down and start exploring, wonder what that structure might be, right? So yeah, it was just a thing to pay attention to, not to disclose everything just because you have it, and really pay attention to the mandate you have in terms of ownership, etc. This being said, great job to all of you. And I've been given the honor to tell you who came in first and who came in second. And I'm very pleased to say that unfortunately we cannot have 2 winners, or you're already winners by being here, but the team who ranked number 1 today and in this entire competition full of very qualitative teams is team number 140 from Liberty University, Virginia, in the US. So I would like to play some music and clap my hands. Very, very well done. I can say from all of the judges, we were very impressed with you, but we were also very impressed with Team 595. Huge congratulations, and I will now give the word to the organizers for and compliment you also for doing this fantastic experience. It's great learning experience, and please maintain this competition.
Thank you very much, Mikael. Thank you. We had an amazing panel of judges, so please join me wherever you are in the world in thanking our amazing panel of judges throughout this entire competition, and in particular this final round. We're very busy with the esteemed judges who took time out of their day and their careers to be able to judge this competition. We know that this round we had judges in Canada and in Greece and in the United States and in Denmark, so it was truly an international panel of judges, and thank you so much for taking time to be here today. one sort of final round of thank yous before we can close this year's Transatlantic negotiation competition. In the beginning of this round, I think it was Aparna who had said, I started off the negotiation saying, I know we're 1,000 miles away, but it's great to meet you at the Transatlantic Negotiation Center. And I thought that was a great last line to sort of sum up exactly what we were trying to accomplish in creating the competition, which was to not just help people, future lawyers, become better negotiators, but to help make our world a smaller place. So that being said, I'd like to thank all of the judges once again who participated in this final round and throughout the competition. We couldn't do this without you. And of course, all of the competitors across the world who signed up for this competition. We hope you found it a worthwhile experience. And to all of you who are in this final round, and all of everyone who participated throughout the world. And last, certainly not least, to the co-sponsors of the competition, Queen's University Belfast, who made this sort of dream come true when we were talking about it, through all your hard work and making this a reality. So thank you very much, everyone. And for the final word, I'm going to turn it over to Alexis and Kevin from Queen's University Belfast to close out this year's Transatlantic negotiation competition.
Thanks so much, Todd. I'll make it quite brief. I just kind of wanted to share the sentiment of kind of our university. So me and Kevin are just the president and vice president of a small ADR society at the Queen's University of Belfast. So this was quite an undertaking, and to have seen it all come together and have watched the effort from the participants and all the judges has been really, really special. So I wanted to give a very special thank you as well to Mikael, Damien, and Georgios. You have no idea how much your early support really made Kevin and I feel like this was possible. So thank you so much to you guys. And then I'll hand it over to Kevin to maybe thank Syracuse as well. And then we'll wrap it up.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll be as brief as I can, considering this has been such a long competition already. But as Alexis said, on behalf of Queen's Belfast ADR, a huge congratulations is due to both Liberty and Symbiosis on an excellent performance today and in the previous days of competition. We really enjoyed watching your rounds. Thank you so much for the judges for volunteering your valuable time and perspective to this competition that was just a dream for us a few months ago. And thank you to Syracuse. There's no way this competition would have happened without you. And we're so appreciative of all your efforts and dedication to this. So, to Todd, Tyler, Allison, and Joe, thanks again for all your efforts. And we look forward to doing this in the future with you again. And finally, I want to say thank you to the teams, all the teams that competed this year, for believing in this competition in its inaugural year. And I guess this is us signing off for this